Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. This is part 4. We're going to be talking about Diptera, also known as flies. And there's a lot of misconceptions about flies. For starters, most people, when they think of flies, they only think of house flies, maybe bot flies. And also, they tend to think of them only as filthy creatures that spread disease. What's funniest about this is actually one of the most reviled animals in the world is not associated with flies, but is one, and it's actually the #1 killer of all humans as far as animals go, and that would be, hang on just a sec, I got another roly-poly out, I can see him in the background. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I swear, roly-polies, man, they get out all the time. Anyway, what was that? Oh yeah. The most reviled animal, the animal that has killed more human beings and continues to kill more human beings per year than any other animal. You know, it's not sharks. That's like 1 to 3 people. It's certainly not alligators. It's not even hippos, which are the most aggressive vertebrate in Africa at the very least. No, it's mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are flies. There are a lot of flies. Cluster flies, those are the ones that are on the hood of your car, like in autumn and spring. You know, they're just all over the hood of the car. There's bot flies, as we already discussed, and house flies. There's flesh flies, which a lot of times people will have a fly in their house and they think it's a house fly, but it's actually a flesh fly. And the best way to tell with them is, if you look really close, you'll notice that house flies tend to be sort of a uniform black color, whereas flesh flies, they almost have like a zebra pattern. There's a gray coating and then vertical stripes if you look close. Cluster flies also look like that, though. The big difference there is, well, actually, let's get into the anatomy, because otherwise it'd be really hard to explain this. What makes a fly? I've been hinting at flies in every previous entomology video. What makes a fly a fly? Well, we can sort of break that down with the name itself, Diptera. So again, like all the other big 5, you got the word ptera that starts with a P, like pterodactyl, that means wing, and then di. That universally, you know, if you look at most scientific terminology, if you see the word di in front of something, it means 2. So they have 2 wings, and that's important because every other insect that we've discussed, and every insect period, when it's an adult and it has wings, it has 4 wings. But flies have 2 wings. And what's interesting about this, what makes flies so different from every other insect, is that if you look on the sides of this animal, they started off with 4 wings, same as every other insect. But they evolved something very unique. If you look very closely at a fly, and I wish that I had a big toy that I could show this with. I wish that I had that for every single one of them. I could actually get a live sample of a fly to show, but they're so small that it's kind of like a problem with that webcam. I would have to like take macro shots of it and then make a slideshow. But anyway, if you look really close at a fly, you'll notice this peculiar organ that looks a lot like the gear shifter in a car. You know, it's just like a stick with a bulbous end, and this is called a haltere. And it's just a wing that's been modified into this peculiar looking nodule. And what's amazing about the evolution of halteres, what makes it so unique and what makes it such a valuable adaptation, is you'll notice this. If you're at your house and a moth gets in, it's not crazy hard to swat that moth down. If a bee gets in, if any insect, pretty much, it's not hard to catch most insects. What's always difficult for humans is flies. There's even tools named after that. It's called a fly swatter for a reason. It's not called a roach swatter or a bee swatter or a wasp swatter. It's a fly swatter. And that's because these halteres, what's amazing about them is they function as little counterweights. So the fly is flying, right? And it wants to turn really quickly. It takes that haltere and it just pulls it in a certain direction, and that causes it to shift direction in the middle of flight. And this is why flies are so agile. This is why flies are like little dive bombers of the insect world. They're very fast, they're very perceptive, they're covered with sensory hairs that detect just the slightest shift in air pressure, And then additionally, their vision is not exactly stunning, but they're really good at sort of determining whether there's a change in lighting, like a shadow being cast over them. And so when you combine all those things, it makes them very difficult for any other animal to catch and kill, including people. So they're just very agile. They're very fast. They're very the reflexes are just insane. But the chief reason for this is why they're called Diptera. The reason is because they have 2 regular wings, and then the other 2 wings have been modified into these little counterweight nodules called halteres. Really cool stuff. And if you look at a mosquito, you'll see halteres. If you look at a horsefly, you'll see halteres, etc. Some of my favorite flies, in terms of, like, you know, their anatomy and their biology, I despise horseflies when I'm outside, but as an animal, they're amazing because just the comparison between a horsefly, for example, and a mosquito. A mosquito, it always makes me think of Wall-E, actually, because, you know, in the beginning of Wall-E, he just looks so dinged up and primitive compared to when Eva shows up. She's like a flippin' iPod that has a brain or something. What's interesting about horseflies and mosquitoes is there's that kind of parallel. Mosquitoes are incredibly evolved. They're incredibly advanced. Evolutionarily speaking, they're very new. They're very modern. If you look at their body, they're very sleek, they're very fast, they're very contoured, and then their mouth parts, they have a proboscis and an additional adaptation that allows them to sort of spread a wound open, and then a saw-like organ attached to the mouth. So it's like a flippin' Swiss Army knife in terms of drawing blood from an animal like ourselves without us noticing. And that's one of the reasons why you rarely see people kill mosquitoes. It's usually mosquitoes biting people and then not going unnoticed until the next day when you got a raised bump. It's amazing. They're very good at what they do. They saw a small opening, they pry it open with these forceps-like organs, and then they inject an anesthetizing agent, an anticoagulant, to make the person bleed more freely. Then they put the proboscis in and draw it up like a straw. Compare that to a horsefly. They are also flies, and they also drink blood. They don't do that. They don't have they're much older, they're much more primitive, they're clumsy, they're clunky, they don't look like they should be even able to survive, and the way they get away with this, totally different mouth part. Fly mouth parts are bizarre like this. They vary a pretty good deal. But they just have like a scythe for a mouth, and then a sponging part, which most flies have a sponging part. Mosquitoes are kind of the exception there. And they just cut you. They land on an animal like us, and they cut them with that scythe. It's very painful. There's no anticoagulant. There's no anesthetic. It's just a crude little slicing motion, and then they mop up what they can before you swat at them. And they're not very good at getting away when you swat at them. So it's just really interesting that these are 2 very different flies that have the same need, that is to say, for blood. And actually, if anything, you'd think the horsefly would have evolved better because they need blood more regularly. Mosquitoes, really, it's just the female, and she just needs a blood meal to lay her eggs, and yet they've specialized that well. So just, yeah, it's really neat. And my favorite kind of fly, hands down, actually, that's kind of a close call. I like bee flies because they're cute, and I highly recommend you look up a picture. Actually, that's going to be the thumbnail for this vid is a bee fly because they're adorable, and they have little nectar drinking mouth parts like a bee, so it's more like the curly straw proboscis. And then houseflies, of course, have the soaking up, it's like a sponge basically instead of a tongue, and then they vomit on their food, which breaks it down, and then they sop it up. It's really gross from a human perspective, but that's what they do. And also robber flies. I love robber flies. People often ask me what they are. I get pictures of them all the time, and people think they're a bee or a wasp or something. And what's great about robber flies is they look like a bee or a wasp, but they're actually relatively harmless to humans. I mean, they could bite you, but you'd really have to go out of your way. You'd have to basically grab one out of the air and shake it around like a dice, you know, in order to get bit. But they have these big rostrums, very similar to the true bug anatomy, and they're so fast and so agile, like as I've mentioned before about flies, that what they do is they just grab other insects out of midair and just drain them. They're kind of like assassin bugs, except they can fly amazingly well and amazingly fast. It's really cool to see. And and also let's talk about the anatomy. Probably don't need to explain too much. They're holometabolists. They undergo complete metamorphosis. Most flies, that would be maggots. That's what the larvae are. So they lay eggs, the eggs hatch, they're maggots. They don't have legs, they don't really have a defined head capsule, they're just like little white tubes with mouth parts. That's really all they are. And the mouth parts are so concealed that they just look, I don't need to explain what a maggot looks like. And then they pupate, which is often sort of a brassy looking, featureless cocoon, and then they're adults. That's their life cycle. There are some exceptions to this. Mosquitoes are the most notable. A lot of people probably already know what a wiggler is. That's a mosquito larvae. They're aquatic, so they lay their eggs in the water, they hatch, they become these peculiar worm-like things that breathe through their anus, like a snorkel in reverse, I guess. Just a really weird animal, mosquitoes are, and that's one of the reasons why, if you don't want mosquitoes in your area, change the water in your bird baths. Anything that holds water, like a tire outside, just anything with standing water, because that's where they lay their eggs. They lay their eggs in standing water because mosquito larvae can withstand a lot of pollution and very low oxygen environments. So compare that to most insects and fish and other frogs, animals that would normally colonize a water place. They go for the standing water. They go for the little puddles. So that's a good way to just sort of avoid having mosquitoes in your area, is change out the water, because they don't like to lay their eggs in fresh water, and if you change out the water, you're going to be dumping those eggs out, and you're going to be preventing mosquitoes from being, a big baby boom of mosquitoes in your area. That about covers it. But yeah, hoverflies are adorable too. Bee flies, robber flies are cool, even though they're not necessarily cute. But yeah, there's more to it than just houseflies, is where I'm going. And again, the most interesting thing about them, those halteres, that's where they get their name. Like, share, subscribe, and keep asking questions. Bye.